So it is the evening of the 30th, and I have the very first side planking board on. And you can see here is my rabbet. And I got some screws in there. And it looks like it's laying pretty fair. I had just a little bit of one of the frames was in just, oh, this one right here was in just a little bit. So I put a little bit of extra epoxy, thickened epoxy in there, and I didn't put screws in this one yet to let it sit where it wanted to sit, so it was a little bit more fair. But otherwise, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this went. Probably wouldn't even need screws, quite frankly, with these being epoxied in. And I'm planning on epoxying them all in. I'm gonna, epoxy them to the frames, and then of course up here too. But this first one, of course, gets epoxied to this chine beam or whatever you want to call it here. But yeah, it's starting to look a little more robust, isn't it? I mean, these chine pieces were pretty strong the way they were, but by the time you get 1.5 inch planking on there and then another 1/2 inch of plywood on there, my goodness, it should be strong. And yes, this is not beautiful, clear, vertical grain wood, but this is the type of wood that George intended the boat to be built with. He intended it to be built with lumberyard wood, and that's what I'm using. It's got knots, it's got, imperfections. It's just construction grade timber is what it is. But like I said, that's what was intended to be used in these boats, and that's why they're overbuilt a bit. Now what I'm doing here is I'm keeping this line here was actually the chine point. Now that chine point's gonna come out more once we get these layers on there, but so it's gonna raise the chine, the actual junction point of the chine, where it comes to a point. It's gonna raise it a little higher and come out a little more, but that's fine. So I'm putting my board on that line, at the bottom of the board on that line. And then when all this gets planed off, this of course this edge here will get planed off too, and this will be a flat surface then that goes down to the keel. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more milling work, machining work to be done. And I try to keep these screws up high enough that I don't run into them. Hopefully I did. And if I didn't, well, then I'll have to take it out and move them. But yeah, so here's that one that was just a little bit, it was a little bit concave here. And I wanted to smooth that out. So I put a little bit extra thickened epoxy in there and then didn't screw it down just yet. I'll put a couple screws in it, I suppose, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going on a shopping run. I'm gonna try to pick up some supplies, get some PEX and fittings and whatnot to start getting some. Hopefully I'll be able to find some conduit. I was going to run some of my wires in conduit, at least the main branches or trunks or whatever of the wiring in conduit, some flexible conduit, but I haven't found any around here, so I'm going to check out like Lowe's and Home Depot in a bigger town. Now, as I get farther back here, getting these 2x4s on here is going to become a little bit more difficult. And I'm going to kind of have to work this out as to where I want to run full length, where it's a little easier to bend, and there's a little bit more shape back here. There's a little bit more curve to the back end of the boat. So I think I'm going to have to put a longer one in here, another 20-footer in here, and then run a like a 10-footer in here where it's a little flatter. But you want to stagger your joints. So the next one I put on here might have to be a 16-footer maybe up here, and then put a 20-footer in, then another 14 or whatever I need back there. But it's going to be easier. The subsequent layers are going to be easier. Well, for a couple of reasons. One, they're not getting, their faces aren't being glued to anything other than just the frames here, so there won't be nearly as much epoxy work to do. But it's also going to, I can clamp them from underneath here. I can clamp them together, providing I don't get wild and in mill that off or plane that off first, which I won't do, of course, because it's going to make it a lot easier to get the planks in there if I leave them the way it is. So yeah, I'm guessing if I did one strake a day, which would be 3 boards, you're talking like 50 feet. One strake is one layer, 2, 3, 4 strakes, and so forth. I figure it would take me 60 days of work doing 3 boards a day to get the sides planked. And I'm sure there's going to be other things that I work on, or days that for some reason I can't work, although most days I do. Probably 95% of the days I do something on the boat. But once in a while some things happen. Anyway, so I'm figuring it's probably going to be 3 months before I get the boat planked up, and there'll be some other projects mixed in there too. But yeah, so by the 4th of July, start of July, I hope to have it all planked up. I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest with you, because then it's going to be hard to get things in there. There just isn't a lot of room to get things into the boat. I mean, the ceiling is, I don't know, I got 3.5 feet there maybe, but if you got something big and heavy you want to get in the boat, it's going to be difficult to do it in the future. And I would assume once I get it planked up, I'll probably have to make myself a set of stairs, go up, put some more boards up there for a temporary deck to get up and in the boat, to be able to work in the boat. But like I said, I'm going to leave the bottom open here. I'm not going to put the bottom planking on for a while. In fact, that's going to be one of the last things I do. I'll probably start doing more interior work after I get the sides planked up, before I start working on the bottom planking, because I want to be able to, the easy access to get it in and out. I guess once I get a ladder or something built up the side, it won't be quite so bad, but still, it's easier at the moment to use these ladders. I got one here in the forward cabin and one in the aft cabin. But anyway, so first plank in place. Woohoo! All right.